You ever have that thing where, you've got the perfect English sentence all lined up in your head,
Uh-huh.
but then you open your mouth and poof, gone.
Oh, totally. It's super common, that feeling.
Right. And get this, there are over 1.5 billion people learning English around the world right now.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. So you're definitely not alone in those linguistic struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're really digging into today.
Exactly. We're not just listing the problems, though.
No, definitely not. The goal is to give you, listening right now, some actual useful strategies, stuff you can use to feel more, fluent and confident speaking English.
So we'll look at the common sort of stumbling
Yeah,
blocks.
the barriers,
Yeah.
and then the ways to get past them. We've even got a couple of real-life examples later on.
It's amazing how universal that, like, word block feeling is. It really does connect learners everywhere.
Mm.
And as we talk about these barriers, I bet you'll be nodding along thinking, yep, that's me.
Oh, for sure.
But like you said, it's not just about pointing fingers at the problems. It's about arming you with things you can try, maybe even today.
Okay, let's get right into it then. What are some of those big roadblocks? Why do people find it so hard to just speak?
Well, one of the biggest ones, I think.
The fear.
Yeah, that fear of making mistakes. It's massive.
Totally. That little voice, you'll sound stupid, or everyone's judging your grammar.
It's so powerful, that fear. It literally stops people from doing the one thing that would help most.
Which is speaking.
Exactly. It's funny, when we were kids learning our first language, we make mistakes constantly, right?
And stop.
And nobody cares. Or rather, those mistakes are actually how we learn. But as adults, that fear of judgment just creeps in.
It really paralyzes you. Maybe thinking of it differently helps. Like a mistake isn't bad, it's just a signpost.
That's a great way to put it. A clue. Ah, okay, this is something I need to work on. It takes the sting out of it a bit.
Right. Every slip up just highlights where you need a bit more focus. Okay, what else? Another big one has got to be vocabulary.
Oh, yeah, limited vocabulary.
You know what you want to say? The idea is clear in your head in your own language.
But the English words just aren't there.
Exactly. It's like trying to cook this amazing meal.
Mm-hmm.
But you've only got salt, pepper, and, like, one onion.
Haha. Yeah, that's a good analogy. It's incredibly frustrating, and it really knocks your confidence, doesn't it?
For sure.
And the thing to remember is building vocabulary, it's not instant. It's a slow burn. It takes consistent work.
No magic wands.
No magic wands, unfortunately. But there are smart ways to do it. Definitely.
And then there's maybe the most obvious one, just not practicing enough.
Bingo. Lack of practice.
You can memorize grammar rules all day long, make endless flashcards.
But if you're not actually using the language, speaking it out loud.
Forget about fluency. It feels impossible. It's like reading books about swimming.
But never getting wet. Yeah, language is fundamentally a skill, like playing guitar or riding a bike. Reading the manual helps, sure, but you have to do it.
Right.
Which brings up a good question for everyone listening, actually.
Yeah.
How much time do you really spend, speaking English each week, actually talking?
Good question. So, okay, we've got the fear, the word gap, and not enough talking time. Those are some biggies.
Pretty common one.
But let's flip it. Let's talk solutions. What can people actually do? Strategy 1, embrace the mess-ups.
Yes. This is so important. It's a mindset shift, really. Mistakes aren't failures. They're feedback. Pure and simple. Every time you get something wrong, it tells you exactly what you don't quite grasp yet.
It pinpoints the learning opportunity.
Precisely. And if you can consciously, reframe it like that, okay, this is useful info, not me being dumb, that fear we talked about starts to shrink. It really does.
Yeah, think of it like your mistakes are your personal tutor,
Mm-hmm.
showing you the way.
Nicely put. Okay, building on that, let's tackle the word problem. Strategy 2, expand your vocabulary daily. Daily, okay.
Yeah, but don't freak out. We're not talking dictionaries every day. A really doable approach is just, say, 5 new words.
5 a day, that sounds manageable.
Right. But here's the kicker. You have to actively use them.
Ah, okay. Not just read them.
Nope. Try to make sentences with them, say them out loud, write them down in a phrase you might actually use.
So if you learn, versatile, you don't just memorize means many uses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'd maybe think, okay, my smartphone is really versatile, or she's a versatile actor, she can do comedy and drama. You make it yours.
Gotcha. That makes it stick way better than just a definition.
It really does. And think about it. 5 words a day. Seems small, but over a year.
Whoa, that's carry the one. Over 1,800 words.
See? Small, consistent steps. They add up massively over time. It's the power of persistence in language learning.
Okay, cool. Strategy 3 gets right at that practice issue. Speak regularly.
Obvious, maybe, but crucial. You need to make speaking a habit.
But how? Like, if you don't live in an English-speaking country. Good point. That's where you got to be proactive. Find a language partner online, maybe, or join a conversation group.
Those exist online.
Oh, yeah, loads of them. Plus, there are apps specifically designed to connect you with other learners or native speakers for exchanges.
Language exchange.
Yeah,
Like you teach them your language, they help you with English.
exactly. It can be really effective, gives you practice, and you often get good feedback, too. Plus, practicing with other learners can feel less scary sometimes.
Less pressure. Okay, that makes sense. Finding those opportunities is key.
Absolutely vital for building fluency and confidence. They go hand in hand.
All right, strategy number 4. This one's about your ears. Listen actively.
Active listening, not just having English on in the background.
Right. The idea is to really tune in. Maybe podcasts.
Like this one.
Maybe. Or audiobooks. Do it while you're commuting or doing chores, maybe.
Yeah, turn that dead time into learning time. But the active part is important. Don't just let it wash over you.
So what does active mean here?
It means focusing. Maybe listen for specific things. How does the speaker use past tense? Or notice the prepositions they use? Or just try to pick out words you recently learned?
Okay. Engaging your brain with it.
Exactly. You're training your ear to the sounds, the rhythm, the flow of natural spoken English. It helps your understanding and your own pronunciation over time.
Cool. And the last one, number 5. Think in English.
This one sounds a bit weird at first, maybe.
A little bit. Like,
Yeah.
how do you just decide to think in another language?
It takes conscious effort, for sure. But the idea is to try and, well, narrate your life internally in English.
So instead of thinking in my native language, okay, I need to make coffee, I try to think.
Okay, I'm going to make some coffee now. Where's the filter? Even simple stuff, just internally. What it does is it starts to bypass that translation step. You know, thinking in language A, translating to English, then speaking.
Which slows you down.
Massively. Thinking directly in English makes your responses quicker, more natural, more fluid eventually. It's like building English-speaking pathways in your brain.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. It's like greasing the wheels.
Exactly. Reduces the friction.
Right, these are great strategies. But, does this stuff actually work in real life?
Good question. Let's talk about a couple of examples. We've got Sarah.
Sarah, okay, what did she do?
Well, Sarah found a pretty unique practice partner. Her dog.
She talked to her dog in English. Seriously.
Yep. She just started narrating her day to her dog, asking it questions, telling it stuff, all in English.
That's brilliant. Why?
Think about it. Zero judgment, right? The dog doesn't care about grammar mistakes.
True. Complete freedom to just talk and try things out.
Exactly. It just shows that practice doesn't have to be formal. Any speaking helps build those muscles, even chatting to your pet.
Love that. Okay, who else?
Then there's Mark. Mark used his commute.
Okay, like the active listening thing.
Pretty much. He decided to stop just zoning out or listening to music on his way to work. Instead, he made it dedicated English listening time. Podcasts, audiobooks.
So he turned that kind of wasted time
Yeah.
into productive learning time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about being intentional and spotting those opportunities in
Yeah.
your daily routine. You don't always need to find extra time, just use the time you have differently.
Make it work for you. Very smart.
Yeah.
Okay, so wow. We've covered quite a bit. We talked about those common sticking points, the fear, the word shortage, not enough actual talking.
The big 3, yeah.
But then crucially, we looked at ways forward. Embracing mistakes as learning moments. That's huge.
Big mindset shift.
Actively building your vocabulary bit by bit, making speaking a regular thing, finding partners or groups.
Listening with focus.
Yeah, active listening, and even trying to switch your internal monologue to English.
Powerful stuff if you can make it a habit.
And hearing about Sarah and Mark, it just shows there are creative ways to make this happen, right? Absolutely. It really boils down to persistence and finding what works for you.
Yeah. The main thing, I guess, is that getting fluent. It's not like flipping a switch.
Definitely not. It's a journey. There will be ups and downs. It takes patience. It takes effort. You got to push your comfort zone a bit. But every single step counts. Every conversation, even a short one, every new word you actually use, it all adds up.
So that leads us to our final thought for you listening today. We've talked through some common issues, some strategies.
I'm fully giving you some ideas.
Yeah. But now, maybe take a second to think. What challenges do you face? Like specifically, when you try to speak English, what's your biggest hurdle right now?
Knowing that can really help you focus your efforts, can it?
Exactly. Really thinking about that might be the best first step towards figuring out your path to speaking more confidently. So, you know, keep at it. Keep practicing. Keep learning.
And keep talking.
Definitely. Keep talking.
Becoming truly fluent in English is this incredibly complex puzzle.
Uh-huh. Like the secret pieces are hidden away somewhere.
Exactly. In dusty grammar books and, endless vocabulary lists.
Right.
Well, what if I told you that some of the most powerful keys to unlocking your English speaking skills are already in your hands?
Part of your everyday life.
Yeah, part of the everyday rhythms of your life. Sounds a bit wild, maybe even too simple, right?
It can seem that way.
But trust us on this one, because in this deep dive, we're going to explore some surprisingly easy shifts in your daily routine. Shifts that could, well, absolutely transform how you communicate in English.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
We've been looking at some fascinating ways, almost like a blueprint, you could say.
A blueprint for using what you already do.
Precisely. How you can take the things you're already doing and turn them into powerful English learning tools. So our goal today is to pinpoint those practical and, yes, sometimes unexpected strategies. Things that can really boost your confidence and fluency just by tweaking what you already do.
Okay, let's get into it then. The first thing our research really highlights is something you experience every single day: conversations.
Right. We all have them.
You're talking to people all the time, aren't you? But the trick is to consciously change how you engage in those everyday chats.
And what's really interesting here is that these aren't just like routine exchanges. They're actually incredibly valuable language learning workouts.
Workouts disguised as normal interactions.
Kind of, yeah. And we found two key ways to really make the most of these moments.
Right. So tip number one is all about being an active participant. It's not just about listening and nodding along.
No, passive listening only gets you so far.
We saw how important it is to actually jump in and ask questions. Why is that such a game changer, do you think?
Well, think of it like mental sparring. You're actively engaging your language muscles, right? In a dynamic way. It forces you to think on your feet, retrieve vocabulary you might not otherwise access. Plus, asking questions isn't just good for your speaking. It immediately tells you if you've understood correctly.
Ah, okay. Good point.
And it keeps the conversation flowing, creates more opportunities for you to respond. It's practical application, live, in the moment.
And building on that active involvement,
Hmm?
the second tip is something that I think a lot of us, myself included sometimes, don't do enough.
Uh-huh.
Really focusing on new words. The idea is like when you hear a word you don't recognize in a conversation,
Yeah.
try to make a mental note or even quickly jot it down if you can. But the crucial next step,
The action part.
exactly, is to actively try and use that new word yourself the next time you have a chance to speak.
This raises a really important point about how our brains learn. I mean, just hearing a new word a few times isn't usually enough for it to stick, is it?
No, usually not for me anyway.
By consciously making an effort to use it yourself, you're solidifying that connection in your memory.
Yeah.
You're making it a real part of your active vocabulary.
So it moves from passive to active.
Right. It's that immediate application that's so powerful, moving the word from something you passively recognize to something you can actively, confidently use.
Okay, so we're making our daily chats work harder for us. Good. Now let's look at another area that our sources point to, something most of us do for fun. Media consumption.
Oh, yes. Movies, music.
You watch movies, listen to music in English, right? But how can we make this more than just entertainment? How do we sort of weaponize it for learning?
Exactly. Weaponize is a strong word, but
Yeah.
Something show that engaging with media can be a surprisingly effective language learning tool if you approach it strategically.
Strategically.
There are a couple of really useful techniques that come up repeatedly in what we looked at.
The first one, and I think this is a big one for a lot of people, is watching with subtitles. Now, some people worry that relying on subtitles is like cheating,
I've heard that. But actually, it can be a really smart way to learn. Research shows that dual coding, seeing and hearing the language simultaneously,
Dual coding.
it significantly boosts vocabulary acquisition and comprehension, especially for those more nuanced words and phrases.
So it connects the sound and the spelling.
Precisely. It creates a direct visual link to what you're hearing, helping you understand not just the meaning, but also the spelling and how words are used in context. You're absorbing information through both your ears and your eyes.
Makes sense. And the second media tip is something that sounds almost too fun to be learning.
Uh,
Singing along to songs. Apparently trying to mimic the singer's pronunciation can really help your accent. Is that right?
it really can. What's fascinating here is how music engages different parts of your brain.
Oh, interesting.
The melodic and rhythmic nature of music can actually help your brain encode pronunciation patterns more effectively than just, say, repeating phrases dryly.
Right, like drills.
Exactly. Plus, it takes the pressure off. You're focused on the song, the enjoyment, and the language learning happens almost subconsciously.
And it's definitely more enjoyable than drilling vocabulary lists.
Let's be honest, yeah. Much more fun.
Okay, so we're turning our downtime into learning time. Love it. Next up, our sources introduce something that might feel a little, I don't know, old-fashioned,
Doing?
like something from a different era maybe, but it turns out to be surprisingly effective. Keeping a language journal.
Yes. The idea of a journal might bring to mind like teenage diaries or something.
Ah, yeah.
But when it comes to language learning, its impact is, well, pretty undeniable based on what we saw.
Okay.
We've identified a couple of key elements that make this practice so valuable.
The first is simply making daily entries. The suggestion is just write something in English each day.
Doesn't have to be long.
Right. It could be about what you did, how you're feeling, or just random thoughts. And our findings emphasize that this simple habit has a powerful double benefit.
That's right. So not only does it give you consistent practice in writing, which is, a core skill in language learning,
Definitely.
but it also forces you to actively think about grammar and sentence structure as you articulate your thoughts.
Because you have to actually construct the sentences.
Exactly. When you're putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, you become much more aware of how English actually works.
And the second part of the language journal idea is what they call reflection time.
Ah, yes. The looking back.
The suggestion is that at the end of each week, you take some time to look back at what you've written. What's the real value in doing that? Seems like extra work.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of how we learn anything effectively, reflection is absolutely key.
Okay.
It's key to solidifying new knowledge and tracking your progress. By reviewing your past entries, you can see the new vocabulary you've started using.
Ah, like the words you noted down earlier.
Potentially, yeah. You can identify any grammar patterns you might still be struggling with, and crucially, you can see how much you've improved over time.
So it's proof.
It provides a tangible record of your journey, yeah, which can be incredibly motivating, especially when you feel like you're maybe not making much progress.
I like that it's a way to actually see the evidence of your learning. Okay, the final strategy our sources point to is all about the environment you create around yourself.
Immersion. Yeah, this idea is absolutely central to language acquisition. It comes up again and again.
Why is it so important?
Well, the more you can surround yourself with the language, the more opportunities your brain has to absorb it naturally, almost without you even realizing it sometimes.
Sneaky learning.
Kind of. And
Oops.
our research highlights a couple of very practical ways to create this immersive environment.
Okay, like what?
One suggestion is to actively seek out and join clubs or maybe online forums where English is the main language used.
So find your tribe, basically. What's the real advantage of connecting with these English-speaking communities?
Well, it takes your learning out of the realm of like formal study
Right.
and puts it squarely into real-world interaction. You're not just learning in isolation anymore.
We're using it for a purpose.
Exactly. You're using English
Mhm.
to connect with others, share your ideas, understand different viewpoints, all in a social context. It's a fantastic way to build confidence in your speaking abilities and improve your fluency in a really natural, engaging way.
Makes sense. And the second tip for creating this English-rich environment is something surprisingly simple, almost deceptively so. Just change the language settings on your phone and other devices to English. How can such a small thing make a real difference?
What's really interesting is just how much we interact with our devices every single day, right?
Constantly.
By switching the language, you're constantly being exposed to English vocabulary and phrasing in the context of everyday tasks, reading emails, navigating apps, even dealing with, error messages,
Ah, okay. So it's like little micro lessons all day.
pretty much. It's a form of passive learning that really adds up over time. It reinforces your understanding in a very practical and consistent way.
Okay, so let's recap then. Our deep dive into these strategies has shown us 4, I'd say, surprisingly accessible ways to really boost your English speaking just by using your daily life. First, actively engage in your everyday conversations. Ask questions.
Right. Don't just listen.
Second, make your media consumption count. Watch with subtitles. Sing along to those songs.
Turn fun into learning.
Third, harness the power of a language journal. Daily writing and that crucial weekly reflection.
Track your progress. See the wins.
And fourth, surround yourself with English. Join those communities. Change your device languages. Create that environment.
Yeah, immerse yourself. And what's really key to remember, I think, is that each of these strategies, while they might seem straightforward on the surface,
Yeah.
each one offers a really powerful way to weave English learning into the very fabric of your daily routine.
So it feels less like a chore.
Exactly. Making
Yeah.
it feel less like a task and much more like just a natural part of your life.
So here's what I want you, the listener, to think about. Out of all these ideas we've explored today,
Which one feels like the easiest or maybe even the most exciting place for you to start?
yeah, what resonates? Which of these daily shifts could you see yourself actually putting into practice first? Maybe even starting tomorrow. Just take a moment to let that sink in.
And perhaps even think more broadly. Consider how these strategies really open up a whole world of possibilities for you to continue learning and growing.
It's not just these four things.
Not at all. These aren't the only ways to integrate English into your daily life. They're simply a fantastic launching pad, a place to start.
To get creative.
Exactly. For you to get creative and personalize your own unique language learning journey using the life you already live.
You know that feeling when you're trying to say something in English and it's like, there's this invisible wall made of words just right there. And the more you try, sometimes it feels like that wall just gets thicker. It's so frustrating, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Well, what if we could, find the secret cracks in that wall together? Those little ways to finally let your real voice come through.
That sounds good.
That's basically our mission today. We're going to dig into why you might feel this language barrier thing exists, and then, importantly, uncover some really practical tips, to help you break right through it.
And that feeling, being trapped behind that barrier you mentioned, it's something so many people feel. It's true.
Yeah.
It's not always just about, grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary lists. Often it connects to these deeper things like anxieties, challenges in putting your authentic self out there.
Right.
So yeah, understanding the roots of this wall, the reasons you might feel it's there, that's definitely the crucial first step. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's unpack that then. This wall you might be feeling. What are the main reasons it pops up when you're trying to communicate in English?
Well, based on what we looked at, there seem to be a few key things. One really big one is the fear of judgment.
Ah, yes.
You might often worry, how are others going to perceive my English? Will they understand me? Am I going to sound awkward? And this fear, it can be incredibly powerful. It really makes that wall feel solid. Sometimes it's even more limiting than your actual language skills. Have you found that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like you're constantly second-guessing yourself before a word even comes out.
Exactly.
And there's just that sheer frustration, feeling like you don't have the right words handy when you need them most.
Right, the limited vocabulary issue.
Yeah, it feels so restrictive. You've got all these thoughts, these ideas buzzing around in your head, but it feels like you can only grab onto a few basic words to get them out. It's like trying to paint this amazing picture, but you've only got, red, blue, and yellow.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can maybe get the basic idea across, but capturing all the shades, the nuances, the details you really want to share, it feels impossible sometimes. And then on top of that, we have the complexities of cultural differences.
Right. Idioms and things.
Yeah, English idioms. Phrases, they don't always translate neatly, do they?
Okay.
And that can create another layer of confusion for you. It can feel like you're navigating this kind of hidden code within the language.
It's like there are all these unspoken rules, and you're just trying to figure them out on the fly. But like you said, just recognizing these things, the fear, the vocabulary limits, those cultural bits, that's the first crack in your wall.
Precisely. That awareness, that's really your starting point. Once you begin to understand what's contributing to this feeling for you, then you can start to actually target those specific areas.
Okay.
So now we have a better sense of why this wall might exist for you. What about actually breaking it down? What are some, concrete strategies?
Right. Let's get to the good stuff. How do you start chipping away at this thing?
Well, one tip that comes up again and again is the power of daily practice. It sounds simple, maybe, but just dedicating maybe 10 minutes a day just to speaking aloud, it can make a surprisingly big difference for you.
And what's interesting there is the focus on you speaking aloud. It's one thing to think in English or maybe write it,
Yeah.
but the actual physical act of forming the words, hearing your own voice that engages different parts of your brain, it really helps build confidence.
Okay.
So the idea of reading a book out loud or even just talking to yourself, that might feel a bit weird at first,
A little bit.
but it's actually a really low-pressure way for you to practice pronunciation, fluency, like warming up your vocal muscles.
Totally. Makes sense. And then, of course, you need to expand your vocabulary. That's key.
Right.
And the advice here, it goes beyond just like trying to memorize word lists with apps or flashcards. I mean, those can help you for sure.
Sure, they have their place. But it also really stresses the importance of immersion. Really surrounding yourself with English. Movies, music, podcasts, maybe even this one.
Hopefully.
This kind of active immersion, it helps you see and hear words used in context.
Yeah.
And that can be way more effective for you for actually remembering them and understanding the little nuances than just looking up definitions in isolation.
Exactly. You start to pick up on how people actually use the language day to day.
Yeah.
And connecting that to the bigger picture, this immersion helps your brain build what we call semantic networks. Basically, you start linking new words to stuff you already know, experiences you've had, which makes them much easier for you to remember and use correctly later on.
Yeah. And another really valuable suggestion for you is finding language groups.
Community.
Yeah, connecting with other learners. It
Yeah.
creates this supportive space where you can practice without that intense pressure, that feeling of needing to be perfect.
Right.
It can be really reassuring, actually, to realize other people are wrestling with the same things you are.
That sense of community, it can be incredibly motivating for you. It gives you real chances to interact, in real time.
Yeah.
It lets you learn from how other people do things. And maybe most importantly, it just normalizes the whole process,
Yeah.
the challenges of learning a language.
Yeah, you realize you're not alone in hitting these bumps.
Exactly. And that shared experience, it can be really encouraging.
Absolutely. So each new word you learn, every minute you spend speaking, every time you chat in a language group, it's all like another little chip off that wall you're facing.
Makes it a bit thinner, a bit weaker for you.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to remember, as you're chipping away, you're going to hit some rough spots.
Yeah.
You will make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where a really crucial shift in mindset comes in for you.
Yes, that fear of making mistakes, it can feel so paralyzing, can it?
It really can.
But the sources we looked at, they really emphasize embracing those mistakes, reframing them, seeing them not as like failures on your part,
Right.
but as totally essential learning opportunities for you.
And what's quite insightful here is the idea of actively sharing your hilariously wrong moments.
Yeah.
By doing that, you not only kind of lighten the mood for yourself and maybe others, but you also slowly desensitize yourself to that fear of imperfection. And the suggestion to ask friends for feedback, stressing that it's non-judgmental, that really creates a safe space for your growth.
It takes so much pressure off, doesn't it? It's not like being graded or someone judging you harshly.
No.
It's about getting some gentle pointers from someone you trust. It really hammers home the point that mistakes aren't roadblocks for you. They're actually stepping stones.
Exactly. Stepping stones on your path to getting more fluent. Each mistake you make and then actually learn from, it strengthens your understanding. It improves your ability to use the language right next time.
Makes sense.
Now, one of the most powerful tools for you for really expressing yourself and connecting with people is storytelling.
Oh, I love this part. Storytelling. It's so true. It's not just about spitting out facts. It's about weaving things together, sharing your own experiences, and making a real, genuine connection with whoever's listening to you. And the sources, they outline some pretty simple steps to help you get started with this.
Yeah, even just thinking about a basic structure, beginning, middle, end. That can give you a solid framework.
Okay.
It helps you share your thoughts, your experiences in a way that's much more engaging.
Right.
And the emphasis on you using descriptive language, that's key.
Yeah, painting a picture.
Exactly. It lets you paint a picture with your words, making your stories so much more vivid, more memorable for your audience.
It's all about bringing your experiences to life for the listener, isn't it? And I thought it was a great tip, too, to actively engage your audience, maybe ask them questions during your story.
Yes, definitely.
It makes it feel less like a performance and more like a conversation, more interactive.
Absolutely. Storytelling, it really does go beyond just communication for you. It builds empathy, it creates rapport, and it lets your own unique personality, your perspective really shine through. It's a way for you to connect on a much, much deeper level than just, exchanging information.
So, okay, to kind of wrap this all up for you listening, We've talked about understanding why that language barrier might feel so real for you.
The fear,
Yeah.
the vocab limits, cultural stuff.
Right. Then we explored some really practical ways for you to start breaking it down. Practicing daily, getting creative with expanding your vocabulary, joining language groups.
And embracing mistakes.
Yes. Crucially, embracing those mistakes as the learning opportunities they really are for you. And finally, we looked at the incredible power of storytelling, how you can use it to express yourself authentically and connect with other people.
And the main takeaway for you here, I think, is that this feeling, being stuck, it isn't permanent. It really isn't.
No.
By actively trying these strategies, by shifting how you think about mistakes in practice, that invisible wall you feel, it really can be overcome.
So, as you think about everything we've chatted about today, here's maybe a little something for you to consider. What's one small personal story, just a little one, that you could maybe start practicing telling in English?
Good idea.
Just a simple little anecdote, maybe something funny that happened to you this week. Give it a try. It might just be the next crack you make in that wall.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something, well, something a lot of people grapple with, getting fluent in English. It's kind of strange, isn't it? You look at the numbers, like 1.5 billion speakers globally.
Yeah.
You'd imagine learning it would be straightforward.
Yeah, you'd think so.
But for so many, actually speaking comfortably feels like a huge hurdle.
It really is a fascinating paradox. That massive number suggests it should be easy. But as we're seeing in our source material today, these excerpts we have, there are some pretty significant roadblocks, often ones you don't even see.
Exactly. And that's what we want to do today, really dig into those hidden barriers. We're talking psychology, language challenges.
And the whole cultural side of things, too.
Right. And most importantly, pull out some actual insights from the sources on, how to maybe start tackling them. Okay, so where do we kick off?
Well, let's start with the mind, the psychological barriers. It's really interesting how much our own heads can get in the way here, like the fear of being judged. That comes through really strongly in the text.
Oh, absolutely. That worry,
Yeah.
Is my accent okay? Am I making grammar mistakes? The source material really points out how that fear can just freeze you up.
Yeah.
You get so worried about what someone might think that you end up saying nothing at all.
And avoiding it, well, that just starts a whole negative cycle, doesn't it? You speak less, so you feel less confident.
Which makes you even more scared to speak next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the excerpts also mention perfectionism, wanting to speak perfectly right from the start. It sounds good, but it's just not realistic, and it really stops people from practicing.
It's like being so afraid of making a mistake that you miss the chance to actually learn from mistakes.
Exactly.
And then, like the source says, low confidence just naturally follows that lack of practice. It's a clear link, isn't it? Not practicing enough leads to feeling insecure. It's kind of self-defeating.
It really is. But the good news, according to the material, is just recognizing these fears is a huge first step. Just being aware. It lets you start challenging those thoughts. And there's that simple suggestion: practice speaking out loud when you're alone.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's such a practical, low-stakes way to start building confidence, flexing that speaking muscle.
Totally. Small steps. Okay, so that's the psychological side. Let's shift gears to the linguistic challenges. This feels a bit more tangible, maybe? Like, I just don't know enough words.
Yes, the excerpts definitely talk about that frustration, limited vocabulary, feeling stuck with basic words. It's super common.
Right. If you can't find the words you need, fluent conversation is pretty much impossible.
It is. And then there's the big one: grammar, that grammar confusion. I think the source even had a little note about an audio cue there.
Yeah, like a sound effect for headaches?
Pretty much. All those rules, all the exceptions. It can feel, frankly, overwhelming when you're trying to put sentences together on the fly.
Oh, for sure. It's one thing to know the rule in a book, another thing entirely to use it when you're actually talking to someone.
Precisely. And the excerpts also highlight pronunciation. That's so key because, even with perfect grammar, if people can't understand your pronunciation.
The message gets lost.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense. Misunderstandings happen easily.
They do.
So what about practical ways forward here? What does the source material suggest for these linguistic hurdles?
The big emphasis seems to be on daily immersion, consistent exposure.
Okay.
Things like watching movies, reading, using language apps. They're all mentioned as really useful, but the key thing is consistency.
Right, not just binging once a week.
Exactly. Even small, regular doses help build vocabulary, help you absorb grammar naturally, and get your ear tuned to pronunciation.
So it's about making English part of your environment, even passively absorbing it.
Okay.
That leads us nicely into the third area, cultural context. This is where it gets beyond just words and rules, right?
Absolutely. The source material makes a really good point that language and culture are, well, they're inseparable. You need to get the cultural nuances, the idioms to really communicate effectively.
Idioms are the classic example, aren't they? Like, kick the bucket. Literally makes no sense.
None at all.
And the excerpts highlight how confusing these can be if you're not a native speaker.
Definitely. And it's not just idioms. The source also brings up cultural references, jokes, maybe historical stuff, social things.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not clued into those, you can easily miss the meaning of a conversation or just feel a bit left out.
Like there's this whole other layer you're not catching. So how do you even start to learn that stuff? It's not really in textbooks.
No, not usually. The source suggests a pretty direct approach to engage with native speakers.
Makes sense.
It specifically suggests things like joining clubs or maybe online forums, places where you can practice speaking and pick up those cultural bits naturally in context, learning the language as it's actually lived.
Yeah, that real-world interaction seems crucial for the cultural piece. Okay, so we've laid out the barriers,
Yep.
the mind, the language, the culture. Let's pivot now to action. What can people listening actually do? Our source gives some practical tips.
Yes, moving from identifying problems to finding solutions. Tip number 1 is straightforward but vital. Practice regularly.
There's that consistency theme again.
Exactly. Dedicate time specifically for speaking every day if possible.
Even just a little bit adds up over time, right? Okay, what's next?
Tip 2, listen actively. Really listen.
So not just having English on in the background.
Right. Focused listening. Like
The-
put on a podcast or a video with native speakers and pay attention. Notice the rhythm, the intonation, how they connect words. Train your ear.
Okay, active listening. Got it. Tip 3.
Consider joining language exchange programs. Connect with other learners.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
It's great for mutual practice support. Sometimes it feels less scary than talking only to native speakers right away. You learn from each other's mistakes, too.
Mm-hmm. Less pressure.
Yeah.
And the final tip. This one feels really important.
It is. The source says, basically, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yes.
It really reframes them. Mistakes aren't failures. They're like essential steps, part of the process. It encourages having a growth mindset about it.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Shifting your perspective on errors. They're not bad. They're how you learn.
Absolutely fundamental. If you're too scared of mistakes, you just won't make progress. You have to embrace them, really.
Okay, so pulling this all together, learning to speak English fluently,
Yeah.
it's a personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone hits different bumps.
Mm-hmm. Very individual.
But as we dug into today, if you can acknowledge and start working on those psychological bits, the language gaps, the cultural stuff,
And actually use those practical tips.
then making real progress towards speaking more easily, more effortlessly, it's definitely possible. It's within reach.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for everyone listening, building on that. Just take a second to think. Which of these barriers feels most real for you right now? Is it more psychological, linguistic, or cultural? And then thinking about those practical tips. What's one specific thing, one small action you could actually try this week to start pushing back against that main barrier? What resonates?